The fourth industrial revolution will never happen in South Africa unless literally millions of the country's people can cross the digital divide before it becomes impossibly wide. That's the opinion of IT industry veteran and founder of MobiLearn, Dr. Hasmukh Gajjar. In order to address these challenges as well as turning people's smartphones into mobile classrooms, Gajjar founded MobyLearn. And he joins us now via Zoom to tell us more about MobyLearn. Dr. Gajjar, a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning to you.
Now, give us background into what MobyLearn is all about and what were the reasons behind establishing a company of this nature.
Well, I had the privilege of working in Khayelitsha for almost 2 years, and I learned that there's a tremendous gap in terms of usage of smartphones, and education became a key issue. So people have smartphones, but they don't utilize the smartphones fully. You know, people use smartphones for entertainment and for social media networking, but very little is used in terms of the smartphone for productivity and personal growth. So you have probably about 600 people lining up in front of ATMs in a mall at Khayelitsha, for example, early in the morning, 6 in the morning, but almost 80% have a smartphone in their pockets. So now one has to wonder why people with smartphones are still lining up in front of ATMs when you and I sit at breakfast and we transact on our phone. So there's definitely a huge gap in terms of literacy, in terms of using the smartphone. Yeah. So that's really why I formed MobyLearn, to try and teach people how to be smarter with the smartphones.
Yeah, in terms of the huge gap in literacy with regards to the digital divide, you say that the fourth industrial revolution will never happen in South Africa until and unless literally millions of the country's citizens can cross the digital divide before it becomes impossibly wide. Tell us what you mean by this in simple terms.
Look, you know, the country is ready for the fourth industrial revolution in terms of the infrastructure, especially in fiber and mobile availability. The problem is that our past really dictates who participates in this digital economy. So if you have the resources, if you have the skills, and you have the networks, you can participate meaningfully in the digital era. But, you know, especially who makes money and the entrepreneurship. So the problem is that 80% of internet connection in this country is through smartphones.
Yes.
And we need to teach people how to use the smartphone more effectively. So unless, and I really worry about the average worker, the shop steward, who needs to become digitally savvy to be able to participate meaningfully in the digital economy. For example, almost thousands of ID books or ID cards are photocopied every day in all of the emerging markets. Yet, we need to teach them that they can take a photo of their ID. We need to teach them how to email that ID to whoever needs that ID, so they don't have to spend money on photocopying their ID. So simple interventions like that can have a real economic benefit if they know how to use a smartphone.
So, Dr. Gajjar, would I be correct to say that the country's authorities in particular are complicit in the widening of this digital divide by not addressing the ridiculously high data costs?
Well, it's a complicated issue. You know, I think the private sector and government lays down policy, and private sector provides the infrastructure. I think there needs to be a greater collaboration between the private sector and especially non-profit organizations to take this literacy into the communities. Government, you know, I mean, we still need to deliver water and electricity, so we have other bigger problems. But I think we need other stakeholders to become much more meaningfully involved. Some mobile companies have provided, for example, zero-rated access to educational material, but nobody is really concerned about teaching people how to become literate with their own devices. So it's like computer literacy. You know, if you have a computer, we use 10 or 15% of the computer. It's the same with the smartphone. The smartphone is actually a very powerful computer. So we need to teach people how to use a computer. If you look at all the Google apps that come with a phone, Google Maps, the contacts, the browser, very few people in the markets, especially the elderly. The youth are not the problem. We need to teach the adults. If the adults become literate, then the adults can understand the value of the smartphone, because that's the computing device in the home.
Now back to mobiLearn. How does it work? How does it turn people's smartphones into mobile classrooms?
Well, because of this awareness, I decided to start up mobiLearn and create video-based content, which is pro bono. It's free of charge. We put it on our website. And the content is really focused around what I call be smart with your smartphone, or turn your smartphone into a mobile classroom. So I'm trying to promote the need to use the smartphone more for learning, educational and personal growth, rather than spending all that data that they can ill afford on entertainment or social media. So we put a lot of videos on our website. We are active in all our social media channels like Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn and so on. We also did quite a few videos with the UCT Medical School around COVID-19. So I'm a very strong believer in multiple languages. We need to teach people in their own language. So we did these COVID videos in English, Afrikaans, Xhosa and Zulu. So a lot of our videos on our site are also in Xhosa or Zulu. So yeah, I think the thing to do is to make people aware that they need to spend some time in learning to use the smartphone smartly.
Why was it important that this initiative or this product was pro bono, and how do you begin measuring the success of a project of this nature?
Well, we've been pretty much phantom-like for the last 2 years. So this year we decided to make ourselves more aware. So that's why we are much more active in terms of getting the message out there. We work with a couple of NGOs. We work, for example, with a co-lab at the University of Western Cape. And we created for them a pretty customized content for teaching the smart device, especially in the rural areas. So I think my objective for this year is to make people aware that there is this content. Most people are very shocked or surprised that it's free of charge. But that's how I feel I can contribute to this digital gap that we need to close. So promoting mobiLearn is probably one of our objectives for this year.
Okay. Dr. Gajjar, great chatting to you. This is a brilliant initiative. Thank you so much for having created it, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks very much.
All right, IT industry veteran and founder of mobiLearn, Dr. Hasmukh Gajjar, speaking to us about mobiLearn, which is a media company that specializes in creating training videos.